What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Dad Needs to Talk. I'm your host, Robert, and today we're just gonna do a little bit of catching up. I've been watching and reading and playing lots of cool stuff that I want to talk about. I am recording this the day before Silksong comes out, so I was like, I need to clear my mind before that comes out, but I'll get into that in a second. As always, if this is your first time here, then welcome. But if you're a returning listener and or watcher, then welcome back. Y'all know here at Danny's to Talk, it's all about fatherhood and family, manga, anime, TV shows, movies, and of course, some video games. So, like I said, played some cool games. And we're going to talk about a few shows I've watched, like Pantheon, Dark Winds, and some manga like Land of Monsters and Spy Family. So before I get into all that, life wise, things still a little bit stressful, but I'm kind of just taking it day by day, as I tend to do. And I will say I appreciate having people that I've met online through this podcast and stuff that I've made genuine connections with because, to be honest, I don't have a lot of real life, real world people that I get to talk to on a regular basis. So I have made lots of awesome connections through doing this show with people online that I get a chance to chat with, talk to, sometimes vent to. Um, and that definitely helps because I know speaking is sometimes the best therapy in a sense, as far as like, when you're kind of going through something or whatever and you don't have anybody to talk to, sometimes it's nice to be able to at least just be like, hey, talk, at least just get it off of your chest, off of your mind, off of your heart, and out into the world. And sometimes that's what I do here on this podcast. But yeah, so shout out to everybody out there for the support and checking in on me and things of that nature. Um, yeah. So before I get into the other stuff going on, because like I said, I'm not going to spend too much time on life stuff this week. Like I said, family's overall good. And school is schooling for the kids. One thing I will kind of mention in passing though, a conversation I had with my kids, specifically the older ones, and I can't remember if I've talked about it on the show before or not or whatever, but some of them have dealt with since school started or whatever, like upperclassmen, trash talking and all this stuff, whatever. And I kind of had to just have a reminder with them of like, hey, just focus on yourself, do what you need to do. But I kind of gave a little bit of context for things, especially as a former athlete in my youth. Um, Talking to them, I said, just because I'm like, especially when you start dealing with seniors, if you're a freshman, sophomore, like my kids are sophomores, and dealing with a senior or whatever, and they're trash talking, saying you're not good, and blah, 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 whatever. I said a couple of things to keep in mind is all athletes, regardless of how good you are, there is a stopping point. Whether it's just age, you just get too old to do it, or your body, whether it be health stuff or injuries. Hey, you might just lose interest, whatever. I had that conversation with them just because I was kind of like I was like, hey, thinking about from when y'all went from eighth grade to ninth grade, I said y'all had some friends that y'all played with in eighth grade that didn't play last year, right? They were like, yeah. And I said, now this year that y'all have already done some early season tryouts or whatever, I said, don't y'all have some friends and classmates that y'all played with last year that aren't playing this year? And they're like, yeah. I said as each year goes on, that's gonna happen. And I said eventually for a lot of people, 12th grade is it. Like, hey, when they graduate, that is it. And so I said, some of these seniors are on the clock. They legit, and I counted out from now till May. I said they have about 8 months. I said that's kind of scary if a person is self-aware enough to think ahead to be like, man, I potentially only have 8 months left to do this thing I love doing. Might not be good enough to continue playing in college or any other higher level. So it's like, man, I got to do whatever I need to do, trash talk, whatever, in order to make sure I keep a spot on this team. And so, when I kind of framed it like that, and I also was like, hey, stop worrying about the whole sophomore, junior, senior, varsity, JV, all that stuff, whatever. I said, hey, just do what you need to do, whatever. And I said, your skills will speak for themselves. And that's a decision the coaches will make, yada, 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 whatever. I said, don't be stressing out or feeling some type of way because somebody's on varsity or somebody's on this or somebody's an upperclassman, whatever. I said, hey, when you on that court, on the track, on the field, wherever you at or whatever, it is a level playing field and stuff. So, but yeah. So those are conversations I have with the kids. Every now and then, because I know how tough it is. Because heck, even myself, I'm 35. It's been what, like 17 years since I finished high school, and I'm like, I still from time to time, if I like really think back or whatever, like I remember that final basketball game back home in Jasper, or whatever. We were in the playoffs against Orange, and we were getting our butts beat or whatever. And so I was on the court for those final few minutes or whatever. And it was weird because literally I'm, out there just playing or whatever. And every time I look at the clock or whatever and see the time ticking down, and like as it gets to like that final minute, and then once that buzzer went off, it was just like this feeling left my body of just like, man, that's it. These were my final moments of playing basketball in a sense or whatever. So that stuff definitely does stick with you, whatever. And I know the higher up the mountain you climb, the tougher it is when that day comes and you can no longer do it and stuff. So, but anyway, just a little bit of encouragement to the youth out there, of just contextualizing that stuff. So, but anyway, going from there, before I dive into some of the stuff I've been playing and stuff like that, want to give a shout out to the homies over at Inside the Mind of a Blur podcast. I just they were just doing a live stream before I started recording or whatever. So or they were live streaming their recording or whatever. So it was pretty dope to be in on that and talk back and forth with them and stuff, whatever. So shout out to them. And I also want to give a shout out to one of the hosts of that podcast, Mr. Scuba Steve, Mr. Steve McGee, for putting his comic, Wake the Dead, is officially available physically on Amazon. So shout out to Steve. Like, I know he's been working on this for a very long time, or I should say working towards this for a very long time. So yeah, shout out to you, dude. Super awesome to see you cross this milestone. And like I said, just want to do my little part to try to help push us forward. And I guess just to kind of give a little bit of a synopsis for this. So people die and there is nothing you can do about it. Or is there? Naomi and Naya are two necromancers who were in a very taboo business, waking the dead. Some people do not get to say goodbye to loved ones, the Wake sisters, but they just want to see that they can make people get their last wishes accomplished. Spirit hunters, known as purists, have a different outlook on these things. The dead should stay dead, and they will do whatever it takes to put an end to the Wake sisters' business. So yeah, so go check it out. It's on Amazon physically, and I believe at least at one point in time it was also up on Webtoon as well. Let me see if I can double check that real quick. Okay, yep, it is on Webtoon, so go check it out and let them know that Danny's Talk sent you. But yeah, but no, shout out to the homie Steve, and the whole It Mob crew over there. So moving on to talking about some game related stuff. So like I said, man, like it is so crazy that Hollow Knight Silksong is coming out tomorrow. It might already be out by the time y'all hear this, depending on what time I publish this, whatever. But uh, but yeah, it is so wild that just 2 weeks ago we didn't know, and it was like 2 Thursdays ago they put out a trailer with the release date coming September 4th or whatever, and they shook the gaming world, especially on the indie side. And they also announced it's coming out for $20, automatic purchase, easy $20 for me. I will be spending tomorrow. But yeah, Hollow Knight, man, it is so surreal because that game got announced of. So okay, for context, the original Hollow Knight came out in 2017, which is the same year Vash was born, on PC only, and then a year later it came out on Nintendo Switch, which is where I played it, and then a little bit after that, all the rest of the consoles. Well, 2019 they announced, so there was originally going to be a expansion called Silksong to the first game or whatever, but they kept working on it or whatever, and eventually it grew into its own full-fledged sequel. And so they've been working on it ever since 2019, or maybe even a little bit before. But yeah, so it's been pretty much 7 years since that reveal and stuff, whatever. And so it is finally here. So very excited to get to play it or whatever. It's going to be very interesting because this will be the first time in a long time that almost universally everybody is on the same playing field as far as like not knowing a whole bunch going into it or whatever, aside from it being a sequel to a game, obviously. But the fact that like they're not doing review copies and stuff for it or whatever, it's just like, hey, everybody, regardless if you're a press, streamer, content creator, regular Joe Schmo dad on a podcast like me, everybody will just get access to the game tomorrow for $20, whatever, on pretty much all platforms. So I was originally going to get it on my PS5 because I was like, ooh, that'd be a nice place to get some trophies or whatever. But I was like, Robert, you got to think about it in the context of your life and how you move around or whatever. The Switch 2 would be the best option for me because the flexibility. Hey, if I want to sit on the couch and play it on my nice TV or whatever, hey, I can just dock it, play it or whatever, and then hey, the kids got practice, no problem. Take it on the go, play it while the kids doing what they need to do, whatever. Cause I went back because I started playing it on my PS5 because it at some point over the years I got it on PS5 either through PlayStation Plus or who knows what. But and I was like, man, because it was like an early file though. I'd only played like a little bit or whatever, and then I went back to the Switch, downloaded it onto my Switch 2, whatever, and luckily my save file that I haven't touched. I think last time I booted up was like 2021, so booted it up, or whatever, ran around for a little bit, and I've been kind of playing it here and there, watching streams and stuff of people playing it these last few days and stuff, whatever. And I was like, yeah, this is the spot I want to play. I want to play this game at or whatever. So, but yeah, but anyway, shout out to Hollow Knight. Like I said, it is crazy that it is finally here. Now, other gaming stuff I just want to just like put on people's radars. So this week, Hell is Us is out. Tomorrow, yeah, on the 4th or whatever. Um, I went back and I played a good chunk of the demo for the game or whatever, and I really like the atmosphere of that game. The combat I'm not so much a fan of or whatever. Like if I ever do get a chance to actually play the full game somewhere down the road or whatever, that is one I would not be ashamed of putting on story mode or easy whatever, because I don't care about the combat. I want to just get lost in the world, explore. Cause man, cause like I said, like the look of it, the music, the sounds had this really eerie and unsettling vibe or whatever. But they did so good with like going around and talking to people, finding clues, trying to piece together what's going on and stuff, whatever. So, but yeah, so that's out, and then a horror game called Chronos: The New Dawn is out later this week as well. I don't really do spooky stuff, but still wanted to put this on some people's radars and stuff because that's coming out later this week. Another indie game that I really wanted to play, but I'm about to put somewhere down the road because Hollow Knight is or Silksong is coming, but it's called Hirogami. I think I talked about this back early in the summer. It was the one game. It's kind of like a puzzle platformer game, but your character shapeshifts like origami into these different creatures and stuff to traverse the world and solve puzzles and stuff. So that looks very dope, or whatever. So that's on my radar. And yeah, I think that's it for that stuff. Now, as far as a game I have played and finished, let me see if I can find my post for it. But while I'm trying to get it pulled up, it was Sword of the Sea is the game. Yeah, so Sword of the Sea is the new game from Giant Squid, which is the same studio that created well, I guess let me back up a layer or whatever. So one of the founders of the studio was the artist that did Journey back in the day, and then they went on and did Abzu and the Pathless, which the Pathless came out I think like 2020 or early on the PS5 or whatever. So anywho, so I'll just say straight up, if you are a fan of Journey and Abzu, play this game. Sight unseen, play this game, whatever. Now, shout out to them for putting it on PlayStation Plus Extra as part of the subscription or whatever. But this game, man, it was great for what it is and for what I needed at the time. Because as I've talked about these last handful of episodes, whatever, life has been super stressful for me in these last couple of months, whatever. We got a lot of stuff going on. Um, and so sometimes you just need a chill, little to no stakes game that you can just put your headphones on, listen to some great music, and just get some great feeling gameplay. And that's what this game is. So Sword of the Sea, you play as this character that you're pretty much, for lack of a better term, like snowboarding around on this cool looking ancient sword through these desert looking environments, at least starting off. And you're kind of uh, unlocking, solving puzzles and stuff, whatever, to bring back the water and stuff, whatever. And so the game looks beautiful. Like I said, the music was on point, and just like some of the locations and stuff, whatever. Like so, we're just like the different environments and stuff. Super dope, super dope. And the biggest thing is the freaking gameplay. Like, I don't know if it's like just like the way they were using the PS5 DualSense controller, what it was, whatever. But just in your hands, it just feels phenomenal. Just like traversing this world, zooming and surfing around or whatever, doing freaking little tricks and stuff. Like it was just a good time. Now there were like a couple of spots, different levels or whatever, that was kind of like, I don't know about this, but the overall though was this was a very, very dope game. And very respectable of your time too. Like it took me maybe, I think maybe a few hours, if that, to knock it out. And then there is a new game plus where stuff that you've unlocked through your first playthrough or whatever, you'll just continue from that progress or whatever. But yeah, so it's like I said, very low stakes commitment time wise. But yeah, so like I said, just wanted to give a shout out to Sword of the Sea, because like I said, I played that a few weeks ago. Pretty much finished it in 2 sittings because I played it the day I think the day it came out, and then played it again the following day, and then next thing I know, credits were rolling, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's done. But yeah, so shout out to Giant Squid for that. Um, all right, let's see what else I want to dive into next. Hold on. All right, so let's dive into some of these shows and stuff I've been watching. So, the first one I want to talk about is called Pantheon. Now, Pantheon is, I watched it on Netflix. It is 2 seasons, 16 episodes total, and it is a sci fi, kind of like a sci fi psychological thriller type of show. And so, this is a show that has been on my radar in passing for a long time, because there's definitely been plenty of times I've been on Netflix scrolling through and it'll pop up in the recommended thing, whatever, and I'll kind of like look at this art that I have up on the screen. And I'm just kind of like, I need to watch that someday. And then keep scrolling, and then days, weeks, years pass by, months or whatever, and then I'll be like, I'll come across it again. I'm like, huh, I need to watch that. It just been going like that for years or whatever. And so I can't remember what it was. But last week I was just like, I think I might have been maybe just like looking for something to watch, whatever. That was also kind of short, low commitment or whatever. And I was like, okay, 16 episodes, whatever total, it is done. Because that's the other thing too, whatever is. I have watched some stuff that I talked about previously, whatever, that I watched a couple of seasons, and then it's like, oh yeah, the show got canceled or whatever. And I'm like, so I'm like, okay, I need something that is already done. Um, and so Pantheon popped up, and I was like, okay, you know what? Let me give it a shot or whatever. So the main hook with this show is that it deals with what is called UI, uploaded intelligence. And so basically what that is people uh getting their mind scanned and basically uploaded onto the cloud, online or whatever. And so it pretty much takes your consciousness, everything, your memories, everything, whatever, and pretty much it's like you're still alive, but just digitally. And so obviously your body is done. Once you do it, it is a one-way street. Once you upload your mind or whatever, ain't no coming back to you to the flesh and stuff. So but yeah, so that is the premise of the show and what kicks it off. And it was freaking dope. It was really, really freaking cool. So the show basically kind of starts off with this young lady, and let me get some freaking names. Maddie. Yeah, Maddie. Uh, she is kind of dealing with some awkwardness in high school, whatever. You know, she's 14, just got to high school, whatever, and kids picking on her, bullying her, whatever. And we discovered that a few years ago, or a couple years ago, I believe, her father passed away. And so, at the time, you don't know what's going on, or whatever, but she's just trying to figure things out or whatever. So basically, she is, shoot, my brain. My brain is failing me with this with the beginning episodes, because a lot happened in this show. Okay, yes. So somebody online reaches out to her through like this like private chat or whatever, and is seemingly helping her, or is seemingly helping to deal with the bullies and stuff, whatever, on her behalf or whatever. And so, as they're talking back and forth through this chat, but the person that is chatting is only using emojis and stuff, whatever. So obviously, her mom comes in one day and is like, "Hey, what are you doing?" or whatever, and she's just like, "Oh, I'm just chatting with a friend." And so the mom, concerned, is like, "Hey, who are you talking to?" whatever. And so the mom, is like, gets a computer. Who are you? Why are you talking to my daughter? Da 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 da, whatever. And the person responds with a string of emojis that references a poem that only her father would know, whatever. And so, or the husband would know, whatever. And that's where things and the mysteries and stuff start to unfold and unravel, because you learn, and mild spoilers for this, whatever. So before I get into the spoilers, I'll just say 16 episodes. If you were into sci-fi and psychological dramas, this show is worth your time. From start to finish, it was good, and it literally loops things back around to a pretty satisfying conclusion, at least for me. I was pretty cool with where things left off, whatever. So yeah. So now dive into a little bit of spoilers. So we get a little bit of flashback and context for what's going on, because obviously the mom is like, "Hey, only your dad would know this reference, da 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 da, whatever." And so she makes a mysterious phone call to somebody. Is like, "Hey, I thought y'all said the thing failed. Where's my husband? What are you doing? Blah blah blah." So you find out that her dad was a brilliant technician guy, whatever, scientist technician guy, and he had a friend who worked at a tech company that was trying to work on this uploaded intelligence stuff, whatever, UI. And so basically, the dad ended up getting diagnosed, I believe, with cancer or something. He got very sick. And so he had, at this point, maybe like a couple months or so left to live. And so his friend reached out and was like, "Hey, you're pretty much about to go. Would you be willing to try the uploaded thing?" Da 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 da. So he went and did it with, like his last week or so, whatever, before he's about to pass away. And so they told the mother that he didn't make it or whatever. And so the mother and the main character, the daughter, Maddie, they've been grieving for 3 years or whatever, thinking, "Oh, dad is gone," or whatever. And kind of find out that the upload was successful, and they've just had his uploaded self contained in a sense or whatever. And but he eventually, just over these years, whatever, found a way to escape that and get onto uh the wider internet or whatever. And that's how things kind of from there continue to unfold as they try to, do some digging into the company that's doing this, whatever, and finding out that, oh, are there more people that have already been subjected to this experimentation stuff, whatever, some of which seem to be involuntarily, and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it just kind of goes from there. It takes you on this crazy journey, and definitely just kind of like makes you wonder, like, man, like what would that world be like if something like that were to happen or whatever. But yeah, so Pantheon, super dope show. I really just enjoyed like some of like the like visual flair um of the show, and the different like representations and stuff, and some of like the different character reveals and stuff like that were all super dope. This was very cool scene later in the series that I really enjoyed. And this was like a super dope uh, moment in the show that I just love this like crazy boss thing that they were or that they had to fight when they were online and stuff, whatever. So, but yeah, that shot just like really sticks out to me. But yeah, so go check out Pantheon. Um, all right, next up, I want to just touch on a little bit of Dark Winds. So this is another one on Netflix I watched. Let me see how many episodes did I watch. So I watched 12 episodes so far. So I watched the first two seasons, which are only 6 episodes apiece. So I watched the first two seasons of this, and it is a basically it is a like kind of like a crime psychological drama thriller type of show that takes place in, I believe it was, is it 71? Is the time frame? Yeah. The 1970s in the uh Navajo, follows the Navajo tribal police. So this is a show that is majority a Native American cast. A lot or some of the characters in the show I have enjoyed their works on a show I talked about a long time ago called Reservation Dogs. Super dope show. Go watch it or go find that podcast episode and check it out or whatever. So, but yeah, so this is a Native American uh, psychological drama taking place in the 1970s. So the basic start of this show deals with I get it starts off with a bank heist that happens where these dudes come into this city, this town or whatever, rob an armored truck and make an escape via helicopter. Now the helicopter disappears somewhere within this Navajo reservation, and that's kind of where you get introduced to this cast of characters and stuff, which the main character Joe Leaphorn is a deputy, a veteran police lieutenant uh, out there in Navajo County, who he's kind of been dealing with his own form of grief in recent years with losing his son due to a mining explosion that happened at the place that his son worked, whatever. Well, this incident with this the armored truck heist or whatever that happened ends up getting brought into his jurisdiction or whatever. And as he's kind of working with the FBI and other authorities or whatever to try to figure stuff out with that case, different secrets and stuff starts popping up in relation to stuff that happened with his son and whether or not it was truly an accident or if there are other things at play happening here. So so that is like the basic setup and hook of this show. Now, the first season I liked fairly well. Second season I was pretty solid too. Now, one thing that AMC does, because this is an AMC show, is that after they air, it's always like a year and some change before they will put it on a streaming service or whatever. Because when I thought about it, I was like, oh yeah, my wife went through this with the later Walking Dead seasons that happened years ago. Of it'll come out or whatever, and then she wouldn't really be able to watch it on Netflix until almost a year later. And same thing happened back in the day with Better Call Saul when that was airing and stuff, whatever. Um, and so same thing with this. So season 3 just aired this year on AMC, but I checked it's not gonna be on Netflix until next year. So I was debating. I was like, man, dude, do I spend a few bucks maybe and watch season 3? But I've heard kind of like mixed reception on season 3, and so I was like, you know what? Season 2 kind of stops at a really solid place, and so I was like, I think if I never go back to the show, I'm cool with the 2 seasons I watched so far. And hey, maybe someday I'll circle back to it after season 3 is on Netflix, or maybe even season 4. Kind of season 4 already got greenlit or whatever. But yeah, So overall, solid show. Like I said, it between this, like I said, Reservation Dogs, it has been interesting for me just kind of getting more insight into the Native American culture and different rituals and different cultural things is the word I was looking for, that they do. And so there are some things within the show like kind of like some like I don't know if I would say like supernatural, but kind of like supernatural slash like cursed type of things that different people in the native community will know or understand or be familiar with, or anybody if you've just dealt with media and stuff, whatever. But yeah, I overall really liked the kind of like main trio of the show, which is like I said, Jolie Porn, Jim Chi, and Bernadette uh were pretty cool. So but yeah, so that is Dark Winds that I watched. Now, going from there, I'm trying to think. Yeah, those are the main shows that I've quote unquote finished or whatever. Um, I need to circle back and finish watching Smoke on Apple TV. I really want to check out Twisted Metal season 2 because that is now done. And then there's other stuff coming up. Peacemaker season 2 just started recently, so I definitely want to check that out because I really enjoyed that first season. And yeah, so I did start a new show yesterday, whatever. I'm only like two and a half, like I think I just got onto episode 3 earlier today, whatever. But it's called A Discovery of Witches. So it's got a few seasons already so far on Netflix, and I don't know, it's intriguing. I'm gonna watch for sure more of it before I report back on it, or whatever. But it is kind of like a fantasy style show where it's the real world, quote unquote, where witches, vampires, and demons live amongst normal society or whatever. And so the main character she is a witch and she has some type of connection to some ancient book that kind of throws things into disarray with all the different races and stuff, whatever. So I don't know, like I said, it's been intriguing so far, but I'll report back on that more down the road once I have checked out more of it. Uh yeah, that's it for the stuff I've been watching. Now I will kind of shout out what's it called? Some anime stuff, just very briefly, whatever. So I caught up on the last couple episodes of Secrets of the Silent Witch. That show is such a fun show to watch. Um, the main character, which so much stuff to keep up with, Monica. Monica, she is just such a sweet and wholesome character who, she is as all powerful, one of the strongest, you know, seven mages in the whole freaking world, but she is also this kind-hearted person who really wants the best or wants to see the best in those around her and stuff, whatever. So, even if it's somebody that might have wronged her or done something wrong, she still strives to see the best in people. So, but yeah, just want to give a little quick shout out to that show. And I'm behind on on so many other things. Oh man, it's Wednesday. I forgot freaking Clever Toss is out today and New Saga. Man, I gotta catch up on some stuff, whatever. But yeah. So shout out to the anime. Moving on from there, I think yeah, I'm gonna just touch on a couple of manga things and then I'm gonna wrap it up because I'm getting sleepy. uh, so first off, so I did a whole podcast episode last week for my manga people. Uh, just in case if you were interested. So Kodansha, their magazine, which is called Younger Magazine, they did a special U.S. edition for free, maybe almost a few weeks ago now, whatever, where within this issue they had 16 manga that, or 16 one shots, I should say specifically, for different series, and they're all free to read and stuff, whatever. So you read them, check them out, and then they let you vote on your favorite or whatever. So from now until I think maybe like November, I believe, uh, they are letting fans vote once a day for their favorites, and the top five will get a chance to be serialized into a full series. So right now, I just checked because the list just updated or whatever. So currently, the top five as of today, when I'm recording, is Godmother, which is one I really enjoyed. Still You, which was solid, but it's a BL, something not really my thing, but still was a wholesome one that I read. Um, and Godmother, that is like a Chinese horror. The Journey of a Dark Elf with Fading Powers. That one was very dope, kind of like a fantasy series. This is done by the same author that did Far East Chimera a while back. The Night of Blasphemy, which is kind of like a fantasy adventure series. And then my favorite that just made the list within the last couple of days, Fasciation, which is kind of like a dystopian, uh, post apocalyptic type of fantasy series. So, because the way I described this is like a full night, but in the wilderness instead of the city. But yeah, so just want to put this on people's radar. Like I said, I did a whole manga episode last week talking about it, talking in depth about all my favorites and stuff. So go check out that podcast episode. And let's see. All right, so manga wise, I only have a couple of ones I really just want to highlight very briefly. Like I said, I gotta go because I am my eyes are getting heavy and I am feeling cooked, as the kids say. So first off, okay, I'm gonna just give a little shout out to Spy Family. So Spy Family, I know a lot of people are like, man, like when's progress happening, whatever. Well, things these last few chapters have been kind of slowly building up to it. And this most recent one had a very, very, very interesting moment, forgive me. Where so this is to be specific, I guess. Spy Family manga chapter 122. So there are some things discovered that basically led to Lloyd finding out that their neighbors, the elderly couple that moved in a while back, might have some type of connection to the Desmond family. And so he's, trying to plot of okay, how can, he approach the neighbor and, basically try to like figure out some stuff, whatever, with that it being too obvious. And here comes Miss Anya, kind of, helps with the alley oop and stuff, whatever. And so they're talking, and basically just this chapter was just a lot more kind of like lore and backstory on the old couple and stuff, and some of like their past involvement or connections with different people and stuff. And then at the very end, there was a moment where everybody, the old family, they've gone back to their house, whatever. Or no, Lloyd then went to their house, so Lloyd and Anya then went back home, whatever. And so the old man has a moment, this like crazy looking face, and he is writing down notes of basically saying like, okay, I need to have a conversation with Desmond because I think that little girl talking about Anya may be test subject, blah 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 blah. So it's like, okay, so was he involved or somehow involved with whatever experimentation that happened with Anya back in the day? So we're kind of getting close to maybe getting some answers on that front. So some very, very, very exciting stuff happening there. Um, and the last thing I kind of really want to dive into just a little bit, because even though like One Piece got some crazy stuff going on right now, but I'm not really even gonna touch on that to be honest. Uh, so okay, last one I want to touch on is this one called sorry, uh, Land of Monsters. So this one story and art is done by Mitsutani. So Land of Monsters is one that I always think about reading. I had always thought about reading since it was announced, earlier this year, whenever, and it started. And every week or every couple of weeks, whenever a new chapter updates, whatever, I'm always like, maybe I'll start it or whatever. And I remember like there's been at least like a couple of times where I started chapter one or whatever, and I don't know, just something just wasn't clicking with me for whatever reason. So I kept putting it off, and just like a lot of stuff I talked about today, whatever, just something about this week felt like the moment where I was like, you know what, I want to start something or whatever, and I was like, you know what, Land of Monsters. And so this one follows a young boy who my brain is blanking again because my memory is terrible right now because I'm tired. I don't know if it's pronounced Rabby or Robbie, but basically he is. I don't know if he's like the prince or, yeah. I guess you could say he's kind of like the prince of this kingdom or whatever. Where he's pretty much being raised by his father. His mother passed away many years ago, whatever, when he was younger. Or maybe not many years ago. No, his mother left. That's what it was. 8 years ago when he was younger, whatever. So he just been raised by his father and stuff, whatever. So anywho, in this world, there are monsters. So there's humans, regular animals, and then there are monsters. And so this kingdom that they live in or whatever, they are strictly a hey, no monster tolerance at all. You see one, you kill it. And so Robbie and his mother always had a strong fascination with monsters, and that's kind of what led to her leaving all those years ago, whatever. And Robbie has always or Rabbi, has always felt that urge of wanting to get to learn about monsters and such and so forth or whatever. Well, anywho, one day a tragic thing happens that pretty much turns his life upside down, and he ends up getting turned into like this kind of like half wolf type of thing. And so obviously when everybody sees him, they're freaking out. Now they're treating him like a monster or whatever, and he gets run out of town. He escapes or whatever, and that's kind of where his journey starts, where he is in the wilderness and kind of following in his mother's footsteps of trying to figure out who she was as a person and maybe connect with some of these monsters and stuff because he remembers when she was younger, her telling him of her eight, I think it was eight, 6 or 8 secret friends or whatever. And she gave the names and descriptions of all of them, whatever. Well, on the journey, he discovers that these friends were actually monsters or whatever. And so you kind of get to see some of these very interesting monsters and things of that nature that he encounters. And in a way, this series kind of gave me a similar vibe of what I talked about when I read Tower Dungeon like a month or so ago. And I think it's just because like a little bit of like the art style, but also just because of like the sense of uh, mystery and adventure and things like that as they are traversing the wilderness and across the land to find all of these monsters that have a connection with his mother as he continues to grow and learn more about himself, learn about this new uh, beastly transformation thing that he's got going on, and things like that. So it's been a very cool um, read so far. I'm caught up with it, which it is 29 chapters as of yesterday, whatever. So I read through all 28 the other day, or maybe I think I got to like 25 in the first couple of days, and then when 29 came out yesterday, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and finish reading these next few, whatever. But yeah, so it is one, like I said, that is just caught my attention because, like I said, I like the look of it. It's a little bit different and unique, but it's grown on me as I've continued to read it and stuff. And like I said, I just continue to be very fascinated and interested in the different monsters and stuff that they are encountering on this journey, and seeing just like some of the art, some of the crazy things that are happening as they go through these different kingdoms and stuff, whatever, has been pretty dope uh, to see. So, but yeah. So like I said, just wanted to, like I said, just show some love to Land of Monsters, because like I said, I know it's a fairly new one. Like I said, it's still a little under 30 chapters. But like I said, one that might be worth keeping your eye on. But like I said, it probably might be one maybe circle to it once it hits like 50 chapters or something a little bit deeper. Just because like there has been a good little chunk of story progression and stuff, whatever, as far as like world building and the different characters and monsters that they have encountered on their journey, and him learning more about his mother and things like that, and the other mystery thing that they are chasing as well. It's all been done pretty well. I feel like, but yeah. So let me know what y'all think of that if y'all have checked out Land of Monsters. But with that said, I think I'm gonna call it there because I want to make sure I get some good rest. So I'll be ready to play Silksong when I get off of work tomorrow. But yeah, so I think that is it. Like I said, I got some stuff coming up that I'm, aside from Silksong, obviously, whatever, but like some other shows I want to continue watching and chipping away at. Kind of looking ahead on the calendar of trying to plan out uh, next times I'm gonna record and other things coming up, whatever. I do know for sure a month from now I will do a my fall anime preview episode or whatever, and I'm gonna try to catch up on at least the shows that I care to catch up on with the summer anime list or whatever, and try to do something with that as well. But but yeah, so I think that is it. Um, yeah, yeah. Thank y'all so much for watching and or listening. Remember, you can find me everywhere at Dan Needs to Talk. And yeah, as I always say, treat yourself to something nice. Read some manga, watch some anime, TV shows, and movies, play some video games, and of course, live your best life. And with that, I am out. Y'all have an awesome day and or week, and I will catch y'all on the next one. Y'all be easy. Peace.